Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Final Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Turbo the CEO. My guest tonight, the Sensei. Tonight's topic for episode number 48, The Great Reset. History repeats. Before we get started, we have to give the disclaimer. This is for entertainment purposes only. And with that being said, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm kicking ass and taking initials.
Hey, that's what I like to hear. And
You don't have enough time. You don't have enough time to take names. You got to take initials.
You got to take initials. I love it. Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We're on YouTube every Tuesday and Sunday at 9 p.m. Instagram, StreamYard, and on TikTok, Spotify, and soon to come, Apple. Also Facebook, by the way. So we got a great show for you guys tonight. We're going to be talking about the Great Reset. I know you've heard it as a trending word since probably around 2019. And we're going to get into it. And before we get started, I'd like to start with my brass tacks. That's the opening of how I like to deliver a positive message to our smarts. That's y'all who are subscribing, who are partaking in this journey with us. And this is to my smarts. Every challenge is an opportunity to level up. Embrace the grind. Learn from your mistakes and emerge stronger than ever. The path to becoming your final boss isn't easy, but it's worth it. Keep pushing, keep striving, and never lose sight of your vision. Your potential is limitless. Unlock your inner champion and unleash your greatness upon the world. That's my message to my smarts. And from that, we're going to go ahead and get started with tonight's episode. Man, it's good to be here, per usual. It's good to see you, sir, per usual.
Good seeing you. Always is.
How are you? What are your thoughts on tonight's topic before we get started?
I think it's amazing. This is a great topic. This is something that puts a lot of context into what's happening in today's world. We can actually see it as it's occurring, and we're actually able to watch the subtleties of it. And if you pay attention, you can identify it. And it is history in the making. It's wild, just wild.
Good to hear. Good to hear. So if y'all don't know, if you're just tuning in, or if you've been following us for some time now, this is our season 2. This is season 2, episode 4, but it's our episode number 48. If you don't know anything about the Sensei is a heavy hitter. He hits the topics. He goes in detail with untapped knowledge, breaking down various lessons and making sense of all the chaos around us. And today, we're diving into something special, something huge. The Great Reset. You've heard the term before. Maybe, just maybe, linked to the World Economic Forum, digital IDs, a cashless society, or the idea where we're on the verge of massive change. Think about that for a second. But here's the thing. This right here isn't the first time a reset has happened. Listen, it's not the first time. History is full of them. So today we're asking, what do past resets tell us about where we're headed. Mike, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me. Love being here. Love putting out the information. And the thing is that don't believe everything you hear, even what we say. Go do your own research. So just because I say something doesn't mean it's true. But do your own research. Do your own homework. We're trying to look at things from the bird's eye view. Most people look at life from their individual perspective, and that's from the bottom up. But in order to get a view of what's happening and how it's going to affect you, you look from the top down. That lets you look at the past, the current, and the future. And if I have an idea of what's going to happen in the future, then I can prepare for it so that I come out on the best side of it. Because we all want to come out on the best side of the future. We don't want to come out as the big loser. Even if we don't win, we don't want to come out being the biggest loser.
Right.
So the concept of this great reset is making a lot of waves. I mean, it's not new. There's historical resets have happened many times. And here's some that are very, very easy to understand and go, okay, I see where that came from. We always hear about the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire took over the world. It was huge. It spread so far and so wide and had influence over pretty much everything we know today was influenced by the Roman Empire. Did it collapse overnight? No. It had an extended period of time where it was on decline until it finally crumbled under economic collapse. It didn't happen overnight. Government overreach, economic collapse, external pressures. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like terms that we hear nowadays?
Absolutely. Right?
So this fall led to what's called the Dark Ages. Now, the Dark Ages was a true reset. Okay? Because knowledge was gone. Knowledge was hidden. And of course, knowledge is power. Without knowledge, you don't have much.
Right. That was during the Black Death pandemic, right?
That's right. Black Death pandemic. This big pandemic wiped out half of Europe's population. Now, the labor shortages forced the lords, the people in charge, to give workers better wages and rights. So what happened to the wealth? Instead of it being concentrated at the very, very top, they had to let some of that wealth trickle down because they had to pay their people, their workers, to harvest their crops. So if they didn't have that, you ended up losing everything.
Right.
So that's a major shift in wealth. The next one we saw after that was the Industrial Revolution. And that was a big deal. That was 1750 to 1900. And you say, okay, what happened with that? And that looks a lot like what's happening now. Okay, the Industrial Revolution, where machines replaced human labor. Instead of everything built by hand, machines started making things. So if you have all of this massive labor that has to create your products, and now machines are doing the work, do you need as many people?
Absolutely not.
No. So that mass unemployment, protests. So the elites, the people who had the money to invest in the equipment to, use the machines, they profited, right? They made big money. But who struggled? The little guy.
Always.
The regular worker. I've always said it's a very rare occasion when the little guy is allowed to win. And so we take that premise and apply it forward. The next time that we saw a reset was the Great Depression. Now, the Great Depression, 1929, the stock market fell. The economy collapsed. Now, what changed or turned that around? There's a lot of theories on that one. Did the government intervention finish or get rid of the Great Depression, or did it extend it and make it longer?
Right.
So there's if you dig deep into the Great Depression and look at the various concepts and theories around that, you'll understand that the government intervention may not have made the Depression shorter. It might have made it a lot longer.
Wow.
So they created what's called the New Deal. And this is where the president said to Congress, hey, I need the War Powers Act. And the War Powers Act gives the president the ability to write law. He says, I can't, it's such an emergency for our country, for us to even survive. I can't wait for Congress to write all these laws. I have to be able to do it. And so they granted the president the War Powers Act because of an extreme emergency. So what happened right after that? World War II followed.
Right.
So for a country you heard the word superpower? You ever heard the word superpower? Countries who are superpowers? Well, it takes two things to be a superpower. One is economic superiority, and the second one is military superiority. You have to have both.
Okay.
At the end of World War II, there's only one country left unscathed who didn't have to rebuild the entire country. And that was the United States. We were the only superpower left at the end of World War II. So that reshaped a lot of the global economy.
Right.
Okay? It changed a lot of things. And we had a lot of years where the United States was absolutely just killing it. Okay? And we hear about the 50s and how they were wonderful. And, it was right after World War II. So the post-World War II globalization occurred from 1944 to 71, where the U.S. dollar became the world's reserve currency. And the reason that happened is because we were the only superpower left standing at the end of World War II unscathed. We had the ability of both economic and military superiority. Other countries might have had one of the two, but not both. It takes both to be a superpower. That's why the U.S. dollar became the world's reserve currency. Then what happened? In 1971, Nixon moved us away from a gold standard to a fiat currency, or the federal system. And you'll know if you ever look into your history and you look at your dollar bills, and we've done this before, we've talked about it, where you used to carry gold and silver around in your pocket. It got to be too much, so you took it to the bank and they gave you a note. When they gave you the note, you get a gold certificate. And there was too much value in those, so they went to a silver certificate. And then after we went to that, we went to a Federal Reserve banks, 12 banks, central banks, and each one had its own notes that were printed. Then we went and changed that to the Federal Reserve system. So look at your new dollar bills. They say the Federal Reserve system on them, not Bank of Chicago, Bank of New York. Okay. So every time a currency changes, the value of the currency changes with it. So what's that doing to buying power and wealth and all that? That redistributes it, right? Okay. So we have all of this money being created and all this wealth being created. And what we ended up having was we had not enough regulation and taking care of the fox in the hen house. And we had a lot of bad financial decisions being made. And we heard about the housing bubble. They made a movie on it. You remember the movie?
Y'all remember the movie? Was that the Too Big to Fail, or was that another one? It was another one.
That was the one about the housing bubble.
Oh, yeah. I saw that also. I just don't remember.
Was that the Big Short?
Yeah.
So what happened? That's called the 2008 financial crisis and digital reset. This is where banks collapsed, and who bailed them out?
Uncle Sam.
The government bailed them out.
Absolutely.
This is where the term called too big to fail came. They couldn't let the entire system collapse, so they did bank bailouts. So the problem when you do bank bailouts are, what's that do to your national debt?
It definitely increases it.
Right. And who got paid out? Private stakeholders.
You and I.
Not the little guy. So the big guys, the stakeholders in those big banks, they all got paid because they're too big to fail. They made poor financial decisions. They were not held accountable.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And
So-
to note, that was around the Enron collapse
Yes.
as well. Okay.
Yes. The
Yep.
Enron was the beginning of that one. That's
Yeah.
just started that whole mess.
Gotcha.
So this led to things happening such as people not trusting banks.
Mm-hmm.
You trust the bank when the bank has your money, they close the doors? I don't trust the bank anymore. So what happens? You have things happening like Bitcoin gets created, decentralized finance, growing distrust in the banks. Now, back before World War II, people used to stock money away in their mattresses. They didn't put their money in the banks. And when we went, this is a whole discussion about money that we could do a whole series on money. People had to turn their money in.
Right.
They had to turn it in. They had to turn their gold in.
Mm-hmm.
And they were told it's a national priority. And if you didn't turn it in, you got arrested. So you couldn't hoard gold and silver at home anymore. Or hoard. You couldn't maintain your own wealth.
Right.
Somebody else had to watch your money for you because you're not smart enough to watch your own money. That's what that ended up happening.
Exactly.
Right. So you ask yourself, you say, okay, what is the Great Reset? So remember the last one, 2008 financial crisis.
Mhm.
That was the first digital financial reset.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why it was a digital is because by 2008, we were no longer on a gold standard. We were on funny money.
Right.
Okay, so money is loaned into existence. It's never minted anymore, created out of wealth. So you don't create money saying, I've got a bar of silver, a bar of gold. I'm allowed to create that much money because I have that much gold or that much silver. Now it's just you loan into existence and it just comes out of thin air. So that's digital. The money only exists on the ledger. It only exists in the books.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see the money?
No, you cannot.
You never see the money.
No, not at all.
It just exists in thin air.
Mm-hmm.
And we could do a whole segment on that. Like I said, it's pretty wild. So what's the Great Reset that we keep hearing about? Why is this one different? And you say, what are we dealing with? Okay. What makes this one different than the others? Because you can look at each of those resets and you can say, this is what that did. This is what that did. This is what that did. Each one had a purpose behind it. So we look at this one and say, okay, the term, the Great Reset, is pushed by the World Economic Forum. Now,
Right.
do you think that the World Economic Forum has your personal interest at heart?
Absolutely not.
Do you think they have anybody in the United States of America? You think they have any of your interests at heart?
Unless there's 9 to 12 figures next to my last name. No.
Correct. In other words, you have no say.
Right.
And we've used this term before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a term that comes back from the Dark Ages. We are all just
The P.
the P word
that
that I'm not allowed to say because I get in trouble if I say that word.
We just gonna say the P word.
It's just the P word. I get in trouble for that because it's too close to the truth. So they utilize that term because in order for people to, I want to say it nicely, for you to give up your autonomy and your freedom and your rights, you have to have an emergency which occurs, which is so big, you're willing to trade all of that for the illusion of safety.
Ooh, boy.
Okay? So that's why the Great Reset became a mainstream term.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in response to the pandemic.
Right.
The one of the other of the words we won't say.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's one of those words that you're not allowed to say anymore. There's certain words you can't say anymore, and that's one of them. So they claim it's about rebuilding the economy to be more sustainable. And they use pretty words. God, they use the best pretty words.
Mm-hmm.
Sustainable. And the other word, this is a very beautiful word. Doesn't fair sound like a great word?
Absolutely.
Sounds like a great word, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's probably one of the most evil words that exist in our vocabulary.
It's probably one of those words that they use in these focus groups.
Absolutely.
Fair.
So,
Yeah.
in this country,
Mm-hmm.
we had the Declaration of Independence. You are guaranteed the right to pursue your happiness. Does that mean you're guaranteed a right to achieve it? No, you have the right to pursue your happiness. In other words, go out there, work hard, and get ahead. You have the opportunity that everybody else has the same opportunity. And you can tell me, I don't have the same opportunities you do because you got more money, blah, blah, blah. How many examples are there of people who lived in their car?
Oh, you see that more.
Look at Bezos, for God's sake. One of the richest men in the world started in a garage.
Yeah.
Okay, so he had the same opportunities that other people had.
Mm-hmm.
Look at, and I'm talking just the top ones that everybody knows. Look at Gates. Where did he start?
He was another one started out of the garage.
Where did Zuckerberg start?
Out of a garage.
So everybody starts from these people are some of the richest people in the world, and they started with nothing. Right. Absolutely nothing. So they weren't guaranteed success because many people failed. And I'm sure they failed multiple times. But they were at the right place at the right time with the right mix, and they were able to succeed. So everyone has the opportunity. It's whether or not they can capitalize on the opportunity. Let me describe the word luck. Luck is opportunity meeting preparedness, which means you and I are walking next to each other, and we're walking down a sidewalk, and I'm situationally aware. I'm paying attention to my surroundings, and I'm looking around. Now, you're standing right next to me. We're walking side by side, and you're just living your dream, man. You're living your best life. You're looking at the clouds. You're just bebopping along, right? And I'm right there next to you, bebopping along. But guess what? I'm paying attention. I see a dollar bill on the ground. It's the same dollar bill is available to you because it's in the same place in front of both of us. I see it. I reach down and grab it. I'm lucky, aren't I? You create your own luck. Luck is opportunity meeting preparedness. Opportunity comes by so many times for so many people, and they're not ready for it. They don't take advantage of it. You create your own luck. So, but because of that, these thought processes saying that we're going to create something sustainable and fair. Who makes it sustainable? Who is the arbitrator who makes it fair? Somebody has to be in control for that to happen, right?
Right.
Okay. So prior to this lovely term, the United States is the great experiment.
Right.
Okay. Historically, prior to the United States, everything was either a full-blown dictatorship, monarchy, okay, or full-blown communism, okay,
right,
or military controlled. So you always had some tiny little group absolutely 100% in control. We were the experiment where we were given freedom and the chance to have a representative government. It balanced with three branches of government. It's called a constitutional republic, which means you have a constitution which you're bound by. And then you have a republic, which means you vote for people to represent you. That's what we do. It's not a democracy, because a democracy is 100 people. You have 100 people, and 51 say kill 49. You kill 49. That's a democracy in its purest form. So anytime somebody says the word democracy to you, you need to go, oh my God, that's a very bad word. It's a dirty word. Sounds nice, but it's really evil. Because in a democracy, the group is the most important. In a republic, the individual is the most important.
Right.
We protect individual liberties. That's why if, as a soldier, I went out and defended my flag, so that these people who felt that that was their want and desire had the right to burn that flag. Now, do I agree with them burning the flag? No. But because I fought for my country and for them to have that right, they have that right. Go to another country and try that mess.
Right.
What's going to happen to you? Not good.
So, Mike, let me ask you a question. All the information that you just conveyed to us is very relative to the point I'm about to ask. We've seen resets before. You just went through detailed information about those resets. What makes this one different? What exactly are we dealing with today?
And you'll see the evidence of what I'm getting ready to tell you. Real evidence.
Okay.
It's called stakeholder capitalism. Instead of businesses focusing on profit only, and all they care about is I'm going to make profit, I'm going to make money, so my stakeholders, my people who are shareholders get paid. Okay, that's how typically businesses usually run. They're there to make money. They do it the most efficient way they know how. They don't waste anything. They don't mess around. They find the most cost-effective way to get the job done, and they get it done, and they make profit.
Right.
Instead of that, you have social and environmental goals. This is called stakeholder capitalism. It's another pretty word, but it's really not a nice thing. There's a thing called ESG. And if you want to look something up, go look up ESG. And then go look up what are the pitfalls of ESG. Because see, it's one thing for the government to step in and tell you, you do this, you do that, you do that. And we would fight against that, wouldn't we?
Absolutely.
What if all the corporations line up in a row and they all say, we're going to do that? And we're going to force everybody under us to do that. You see how that's a little more nefarious? Because now private companies are doing things that a tyrannical government would do, but the private companies are doing it. That's called ESG. Look that one up. So what makes us a difference? We had a digital reset with 2008, but that was not what's happening. This is a digital transformation happening in this one. And here's why. Just like the parallel of the Industrial Revolution said, we're moving from everything hand-built to machine-built. Now we're running from everything human-run and done to all AI-driven.
Right.
That's where we're headed in a rapid pace. And if you read anything about anything, we've already had sessions on this one.
Absolutely.
It's called the AI revolution, where it's a digital transformation of automation, cashless societies, and central bank digital currencies. Now, you say, wait a minute, did you just say digital currencies? Did you say cryptocurrency? And I said, yes, cryptocurrency. What happens when the big players come in and say, we are now going to be the digital currency? Then all the little players are gone. Now you have a centralized digital currency. And you say it's a great thing, except for something else. Have you ever gone to a coffee stand and you're going to get a cup of coffee from the coffee stand and you want to tip the barista who's making your coffee?
Right.
And you would give them $1, right? Or $2 in cash. Okay. Are they taxed on that cash?
No, not anymore.
Now you can't pay with cash. Everything has to be on a card, so it all goes through the system. And what happens to 100% of their tips? They're taxed. What happens if you decided you see something on Marketplace, Craigslist, whatever, and somebody says, I'm going to sell some tires that I've got that I don't need for my car anymore. If it's a cashless society, how do you buy that? Now it's tracked.
It's definitely tracked and taxed.
And then comes the next piece of it, because the moment that comes into play, you have to understand something. It's already been experimented and tested and fully vetted and fully functional and ready to implement here. And it's called the social credit score.
I was just talking about that.
I have a diesel truck. It burns diesel. It's nasty. I go to buy diesel at the gas pump and my credit card says, I'm sorry, you bought 10 gallons this month. You can't buy anymore.
Right.
And it's a cashless society. So every time I put a credit card in, guess what happens? I'm blocked. I can't buy diesel for my truck. I buy gasoline, same thing. Oh, you smoke too much. No. We got to cut your cigarettes down. You're only allowed to buy so many packs per month.
Right.
And this used to be dealt with ration systems.
Yeah.
And they would give you a ration card, and you could take your ration card and go get either fuel or cigarettes or things which are considered items, right?
Right.
That are in that ration system. Now it can be totally controlled 100% digitally, and nothing escapes. That's 100% control, isn't it? Who is in control of that? Are the people in control of that?
Not at all.
Not at all. So next thing we hear about in this, what makes this one also different, is called the green energy shift.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at this and go, green energy. Oh my God. Here's why. We've had to have stricter and stricter regulations on our pollution that comes out of our vehicles and everything that we do. If you burn coal at a plant to make energy, it has to have zero emissions coming out of it. You have to be so clean in all the energy that you use that we're already doing it. We're probably one of the cleanest countries in the world. Go to Asia if you want to see dirty.
Right.
They don't care. But yet they blame us because we have to go green. Then what it is trying to phase out fossil fuels and carbon tracking. You ever heard of carbon tracking?
Yeah, carbon tracking.
What's your carbon footprint? Everybody hears about the carbon footprint.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem with the carbon footprint is everybody thinks that carbon's a bad thing. Okay, carbon dioxide. You're putting out too much carbon dioxide. What in our planet uses carbon dioxide to live?
Hello? Ding, 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 ding.
Trees and plants and all this stuff that grows. All the green stuff needs carbon dioxide. So if we have a lot of carbon dioxide in our air, I think that's really kind of a good thing because it's really good for the plants.
Right.
But it's made to be sounded like a bad thing. And it's a way to tax people who have money. If I tax you 20 ways, I got to find a way to tax you 10 more. So who controls that? Who says what's considered green or not green? Who controls what's considered good or bad? It's not the people.
It's those fact checkers.
Fact checkers. Absolutely.
Right.
So you see how this is different? This particular reset is an absolute all-encompassing control of everything about your life.
Yeah.
This is what makes this one different.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're the little guy, 100% of your life is going to be controlled. 100% of your life will be controlled. And either you're going to adapt to it and learn how to use it and try and stay ahead of the wave, or you're done. You're just going to be the next poor guy in the soup line.
Man, that's a harsh reality.
It's a harsh reality.
Yeah.
And what does this create? This creates a thing called wealth distribution. Now we say, okay, we have AI taking over and it's doing all these jobs. And we've had, in one of our sessions that I think is a good idea to do, is we're going to talk about how to reset proof yourself.
Oh, yeah, that'd definitely be a great topic.
Okay.
Yep.
So during the Industrial Revolution, was it a big wealth redistribution? Yes. During the Depression, wealth redistribution, right? Every time we've had a reset, wealth gets redistributed. And you say, well, what does that mean? That means the guys at top who know what's coming are going to make a lot of money. And the little guy's going to lose everything. How many times have you heard about stories during the Great Depression where the farmers lost their farm to the bank?
Yep.
I mean, that's wealth redistribution. The bank owns your farm, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then they resell it to somebody else. So that's redistribution. Okay. That's just oof. So in that, what's going to happen, and this is a term, and this is a ding, ding, ding term. Listen to this term. And when you hear this term, this is one of those terms that you probably want to run away screaming. Okay. This is because this one term alone will steal your personal freedom.
I just mentioned it.
This one term.
Yep.
Have you ever heard of UBI?
Universal Basic Income.
Basic income. And they're saying, well, we have to do this. It's necessary because these people are displaced and they're out of work and they can't afford a living wage. Have you ever heard of that term? So anybody who understands anything about economics knows if the minimum wage is here, what's it called the minimum wage for? You're an unskilled laborer getting into the workforce. So if you make minimum wage, what are you supposed to do? Stay there? Or are you supposed to work your way up the food chain and make more money?
Well, ideally, you should wait and work your way up.
That's what you're supposed to do, right?
Right.
Okay. But now it's, oh no, we don't have equality of opportunity. We're now looking towards equality of result. Think about that term. And that's something I'm not really going to dig into in this, because this is that stuff that gets you.
Yeah. Exactly. Right.
Okay, so we're not going to go into that a lot. But you're going to hear the terms of this is a great thing, because you have the entire workforce of these kids who can't earn a living wage.
Right.
But if the minimum wage goes up, do you think the cost of everything goes up? Everything goes up.
Everything goes up.
But the guy who's here, who's been working for 10 years and now is it here, and they bump up the minimum wage, you think his pay is going to go up?
No.
He just got a pay cut.
Yeah.
Because the cost of everything just went up. So that's why increasing the minimum wage is pure fallacy.
Right.
But what it does is it sets us up for feeling, and this is the key thing about it, feeling that a universal basic income is needed so that these poor people can have a living wage.
Yeah. The savior economy.
And now who's in control of doling out the universal basic income?
It will have to be, yeah. I'm not saying it.
Not civilian sector.
No, not civilian sector.
And if the other organization is in charge, they always demand a price. And what's the price they always demand? You give up your personal freedom for the illusion of safety.
Yep.
If you give up your personal liberties and freedom for the illusion of safety, you deserve neither one. And that's a quote that came out many, many moons ago. So if you consolidate power, is the little guy winning or losing?
He's definitely losing. But Mike, let me ask you a question. I understand. To my smarts, I hope you're taking notes and you understand. And we're putting this thing together so you can see how vital this information is. So they're pitching it as a necessary shift.
Oh, yeah.
But some say it's just a new way to consolidate power. Governments and corporations seem to be gaining more and more control over our daily life.
What's the biggest redistribution that happened during COVID-19? Do you remember? Oh, I said the word. The box stores were allowed to stay open. And the mom and pop stores had to shut down.
True.
So what did that do? You killed the small businesses.
Yeah.
Who give the most amount of money to the neighborhoods they live in. Who pays for the soccer team to have new uniforms? The local businesses, right? They sponsor the team, they give them uniforms, right? So who puts the money back into the economy? The small businesses. But they're independent, you see? They can't be controlled. So what do you have to do? You have to destroy them. So you take the event and you do a wealth redistribution. Kill the little guy, big guy wins. The only people who survived were the businesses who had the ability to adapt. It's either you're going to adapt or you're going to be left behind. And this is red text. Hang on for this one. Don't forget this one phrase. Adapt or get left behind.
Yeah.
This is so huge in what we're dealing with right now. This is why we've had that conversations where I tell you I'm adapting every day. I'm using these tools and I'm learning how to harness those tools to do my job better so that I don't get left behind. And you want to take a look at a template. They had COBOL programmers. COBOL is a computer language.
Yeah.
And COBOL programmers were back in the 60s and 70s. They were like the IT people. They were like the smarts. They were the smart people. And So what occurred is that a lot of those programmers, when the languages began to change, they kind of got out of the industry because they were getting closer to retirement, or they just didn't stay in it anymore because the job went away, and they never really stayed with the technology after it adapted. They got left behind. 5 years, 10 years go by, they're out of the industry, and suddenly, boom, you know nothing.
Right.
So they got left behind. And that's an example of people who are at the top of the food chain, who, because they did not adapt, got left behind. So, I mean, it's just the way it is.
Wow. So let's connect the dots. What are the biggest similarities between past resets and the Great Reset today?
All right. Let's do some quickies. This is the quickie hit.
Okay.
The economic collapse leading to change, the Great Depression. What did it give us? More government intervention. The first department created by the New Deal was called the Department of Agriculture. That's the first one of all the departments. Department of Energy, Department of this, Department of that. It doesn't matter. All the departments created by the government, which did not exist before. The first one created was the Department of Agriculture. And what did that control?
It definitely was your food supply.
The small farms, right?
Farms.
And the Department of Agriculture over the years has put many, many countless numbers of small farmers out of business.
Right.
Because like the small businesses, look at the parallels. During the vid, the same thing. The big guy stays open, the little guy gets shut down. During the Great Depression and the New Deal, Department of Agriculture comes in, the big guy thrives, the little guy gets shut down. So that's more government intervention.
Right.
The 2008 crisis, this is where it really came to a head fast. More government intervention into the financial system. Like not even behind the scenes, but blatant. Okay? During the vid, what was the big thing that happened? Massive stimulus spending. Spend. Our national debt, we used to talk about it in the tiny numbers.
Right.
$1 trillion is not a tiny number anymore.
No.
But when you spend that much and you print that much, of course, everything's devalued. Okay. So this paves a way for a new system. Because think about this. If our national debt gets to be, let's just say 50, 100 trillion. Okay. Well, let's do a reset. We wipe that entire debt and start fresh with a digital currency. Because what's going to happen is you're going to be told the debt is so great that we can't sustain, or we're going to fail, the country's going to collapse. We have to change everything. And we now go to a global digital currency, and your autonomy goes out the window. Done. So COVID set up that. It paved the way. Right now, the World Banking, the World Bank has in place right now everything is needed to go to 100% digital currency across the entire globe. It's already in play. We're just waiting. We are the only holdout. We're the holdout. New Zealand, 100% cashless society. Don't believe me? Go check it out. So now the next similarity is when we had the Industrial Revolution, we had, again, physical labor to mechanical labor. Now we're going from technology driving disruption, Industrial Revolution. Technology is replacing humans. And I've said that right now, human knowledge in its entirety is a basketball. And this is already shrinking.
Right.
And from the last time I said this, it was that AI knowledge was a golf ball. AI knowledge is now a baseball. And I haven't said this very long ago.
I remember. You said it on this show.
I'm telling you, within under 5 years, because that's usually a technology plan, in under 5 years, it's going to be reversed. And here's how we know it's coming to pass, because AI is already generating content, because there's not enough people generating content. If you want to see something really funny, and I mean, this is like freaky, go look at YouTube sometime, and it's real simple. I want you to look up and I just happened to fall across this and was like, what is this? Look up Barron Trump AI song.
Barron Trump AI song.
Barron Trump AI song. Because what's occurred is AI has taken his likeness and generated a music video with him in it, AI generated.
Wow.
And playing the song. Him singing the song. Because they've taken his voice and they know his voice. So you can replicate the voice. You can never. It's mind-blowing. It's coming on your doorstep. So if you have AI replacing knowledge, because it's automated knowledge, the Great Reset is pushing for full digital control over finance and identity. That means your personal identity gone, your personal freedom gone. You're 100% now tracked day and night. So let's look at the similarity. Shifts in power and control. After Rome fell, power shifted to the feudal lords. You remember the lords in charge of all the P word?
Yep.
Okay. With the Great Reset, control will shift to central banks, AI-driven governance, multinational corporations. Not a company that's here, but a company that's global. Not a bank that's here, controlled by us, but it's global.
Global.
There's global court right now. Do you think that our Constitution and our freedoms and our rights we have are protected in a global court?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. We have the Fifth Amendment. You cannot be compelled to testify against yourself, right?
Right.
Okay. Illegal search and seizure. None of those matter in the world court. So all of our personal freedoms that we love to be American, gone.
Those little devils.
Toodaloo. So let's look at wealth redistribution. We talked about that one just a little bit ago.
Yeah.
During the Black Death, the workers gained bargaining power. There's not enough of us. You need us. Give us more money. Good. Great Depression. Government control over wealth. Government gave out a system. What happened in the late 60s and early 70s? What major institution decimated intercity communities?
You want the 3-letter agency?
No, I'm talking about the W word. The W word. This decimated inner cities.
Oh, yeah, the 3-letter W word?
No, the one that ends with fair. Because what occurred is in order to get that government handout, you could not have a nuclear family.
Right.
You had to have a single person raising all the children. So you could not have a nuclear family of husband and wife. It wasn't allowed. Because if you had a husband and wife, you didn't qualify to get those benefits. You couldn't get that money. You couldn't get the food. You couldn't get the medical. You couldn't get anything. And when there weren't the jobs in the inner city, what occurred? You kick the man to the curb. You get the benefits to take care of the children. And this has happened across the country. And I'm not talking just inner cities. I'm talking about small towns.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You're talking about out in the Adirondacks, up in New York, through the Finger Lakes area. You're talking about every small town in this country that when you drive through them, it looks like a ghost town. I can guarantee you what the number one thing is going on that feeds that economy. The government pays for it. It's that system. And it does not allow for two parents to raise the children.
Right.
That's absolutely devastating to our society. Because it's really hard when that occurs, what it does for you. So how about now? How's AI and UBI, Universal Basic Income, going to control the money flows? You have to play by the rules, otherwise you don't get your basic income this month. You see, that's what's going to happen. Just like what had happened in the 70s, in the 60s. The same template gets applied further down the road. The same thing's happening, just a little bit different, but it's the same thing.
Man, Mike, it sounds like we're on the brink of something huge. So what's next? And how do we prepare?
Well, the first thing, you have to know what's coming. Like if a tornado's coming, You hear the warning. You see the clouds are bad. You know that the clouds just turned green, and you know that you're in Tornado Alley. What do? You hang out outside? No. You head to the storm shelter.
Absolutely.
You head to the basement. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You don't get caught unawares, because that's the best way to die. If you're in a hurricane area, what do? Board up the windows, get everything as high up as you can, right? Don't leave all your goods down on the ground level. If you're in that area that floods, by God, you better be 12 feet up with your good stuff, and it better be in watertight sealed containers. You see how hard is that to do, right? We know how to do this stuff. You just got to plan for it. So when the flood is gone and everything's wet and destroyed, none of your stuff is destroyed because it's sealed, right? They got these bins that are amazing. You can put stuff in them. They're watertight. Works great. Take your important stuff and put it in there. You know it's coming. So if you know it's coming, don't just sit around and go, duh, hey, it's coming. Prepare. That's knowledge is power. Don't ignore the signs. Understand where the power is shifting and how. Diversify your assets, because when the digital currency comes, cash is gone, freedom is gone. You better have different ways to deal with things. And I like to say, crypto, yeah, that's neat. That's cool. Very volatile, very dangerous to invest in, because the moment that the big boys step in, your Dogecoin or your whatever is gone. So that's kind of rough. Okay. Cash freedom might disappear. So you say gold. Here's the problem. Can you buy a loaf of bread with a piece of gold? Too much. The value's too great.
Right.
But junk silver, that's a pretty good one to have, because you can take a silver dollar, and we have an idea of the value of a silver dollar, and you can take and go get some eggs or bread or meat with that, right?
Right.
What's the best thing I tell people? That if you want to have a tradable asset that does not involve cash, because the barter system is going to get real, what's the number one thing you could have in your possession, which is the best trading material God created?
You said God created.
Oh, yeah. Tiny hole punching devices. A box full of them.
That's why I said God created.
That's right.
It starts
I'm
with
a firm believer that God created hole punchers.
Right.
So if I can feed my hole punchers,
right,
I can take those little things and trade them very, very, very easily, because it's small. It's a tiny denomination.
Right.
Right. And they last. If you store them properly, they last just fine. They can last 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years and still be fine. So it's a great diversification of your assets, because don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
And here comes the next one. This is one of our ones we want to talk about. Develop future-proof skills. If AI replaces jobs, what skills matter? I'm not going to go into it. No, the one final thing I'm going to tell you about this, and this is this. Global resets are never fair or equitable, and the little guy never wins. And if you can understand that thought process and know that it's coming, do you want to be a winner or do you want to be a loser? So get off your butt and get ready so you can be not as bad of a loser.
Wow. This was a hell of a conversation, man. People need to wake up to what's coming. Let me ask you, where can they find more information on the topic that we just discussed, and let the people know where they can find you and if they want to hear more?
Well, I'm kind of a hermit. I like to say it this way. The only way to know me is to know someone who knows me. So I have not put it out. You know me. We're family. So I'm going to come and I'm going to share knowledge. Not everybody gets that.
Right.
But so Do your own homework. Take the key words that we've said. There's all kinds of resources that are available. We've talked about privacy and how to protect yourself. So if you're afraid of being discovered by what you're doing because you don't want anyone to label you as being one type or another, there's tools out there. It's so easy. We've talked about VPNs. We've talked about using, as an example, DuckDuckGo as a browser, which stops tracking. And there's all kinds of things you can do. And then just start asking questions. But you have to have an open mind, and you have to be able to read, and you have to be able to understand. And then stop looking at things from your only individual perspective of where your feet are. Stop looking at your feet. If you look at your feet, you go nowhere. Get up above the trees and look down, and you see the whole forest. Change your perspective. That's how you figure it out. Change your perspective and start looking at things from a different angle. Look at things from historical context. Take this, and today is not today. Today is created because all of that behind it allowed us to get to today.
Absolutely.
If you don't know your history, you are doomed to repeat it.
Absolutely.
100%.
100%.
The game is changing.
So people, listen to my smarts. Thank you for tuning in with us. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Follow myself, follow Mike on different social media platforms. We're going to keep this conversation going every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. I'm adding an additional night during the week for more guests to come onto the show. Yay for that. Remember, the game is changing. Be the game master. Don't get left behind. But also, remember, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that this redistribution of wealth pertains to you. It never pertains to the common man. History has dictated so. It never comes back to us. So for all of you out there who are saying, oh man, these things are going to be great. Digital currency is going to be great. The things that they're implementing through this reset is going to be great because of the redistribution of wealth. Oh, they're going to give us this. They're going to give us that. They're going to give us the 40 acres in a mule. Listen.
They're going to take your soul for it.
It is not happening. It is not happening. More than likely, they're going to give you an AR and send you overseas to a new war, if anything. And with that being said, this is a good night. And from the final boss and from the sensei, we bid you guys farewell to the next episode. See you on Tuesday. Thank you.